Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Remedies and Realities. You know what you need to do if you are enjoying the content. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and then like and share. You can also follow me on all of the social medias. And if you have a guest suggestion or a content suggestion, please email me. All of that information is below. Thank you. Enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome to episode 14 of Remedies and Realities. I'm your host, Angie Blake. I have with me today a fascinating guest that you are going to love. Dr. Olga Ravasi is an expert in Balkan affairs and U.S. policy in South Central Europe, carrying the designation of highly qualified expert per the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, with a primary focus on foreign affairs, security, counterterrorism, and transnational crimes. He advises U.S. corporate, government, and non-governmental organization clients on matters affecting their plans, interests, and operations in these regions. As a scholar and educator with an arts and media background, Dr. Ravasi was a professor of political science, teaching courses in American government, comparative government, international relations, and foreign policy. She co-founded an ethnic media organization, carries an international press credential, and serves on several boards of education, humanitarian, and non-governmental organizations. She's active in national politics and presidential campaigns. So, Dr. Ravasi and I could discuss a number of things according to her resume. But today we are going to discuss a new group dedicated to restoring free speech and civic dialogue in America called the National Conversation. So, first, Dr. Olga, thank you and welcome to the show. And thank you so much for joining me. And then next, I would like for you to tell us a little bit about the national conversation, how it came about, and how you got involved with it.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for that lengthy introduction of my bio. I sound like a pompous ass.
You do not. You sound like a very educated and fascinating woman.
Thank you. So the national conversation came about as we sat around and few prominent people decided that it's time to launch something new that would sow the seeds, essentially, of a new path, possibly a third way or a third path that would have some foundation or build the foundation, grassroots foundation from the bottom up, in order not only to protect free speech, to engage in civil discourse around the nation, but to also challenge and offset the so-called uniparty. Because what we have discovered in these past several electoral cycles, but not only the past ones, of the recent ones for several decades now, it seems like no matter how we vote, we end up getting the same package,
Yes.
which is all inclusive. Yes. And most of the all inclusive package gives us more war and gives us more taxpayer funding to war. It's a big transfer of wealth, and it also gives us much poorer and poorer economic mobility of Americans. So it's sort of over encompassing conversation that we must have. And the reason being is the American people are still not being heard. And as I said, no matter how they vote, it seems that the politicians or the political class overpromises, promises, and we are enthusiastic and we have all this energy that we want to push into a candidate. And, we can just speak of this last election or the last three electoral cycles with President Trump. There has been so much enthusiasm for somebody like President Trump. And I was one of rare examples that stuck around from 2015 on all the way to this election cycle, running actually a coalition for President Trump, which was an ethnic coalition, one of the rare ones that continued being consistently active, which was Serbian Americans for Trump. I'm very proud of that. And we tapped into some of the voters that have never really engaged. They never were a part of the political process. And these people all of a sudden got involved, got excited, but it seems that we still have an ongoing coup, just like we witnessed in 2016 and then obviously in 2020 with the election. We did end up electing President Trump, but it seems that he continues being sabotaged. So what we wanted to do is get together with several very prominent leaders, spearheaded by Colonel Douglas Macgregor. And this time around, we are coming to Dallas, Texas, and we will be joined by Natalie Brunell, who is a really fantastic financial expert. And then we're going to be joined by Judge Andrew Napolitano, who most of you know from all of his work when it comes to law and order and constitutional law. And we wanted to engage with Americans, not come and talk at them, but actually talk with them, hear what their concerns are, what their issues are, what solutions they may offer themselves that are still not being pushed forth through President Trump's administration, and see how we can actually assist them in getting some of these needs met. Because as we said initially, whatever it is that we're voting for and whatever we hope that we are going to get, the needs of the American people are not being met still. The needs of Ukrainians are being possibly met, although not all Ukrainians, because they are dying left and right. But the political elite of Ukraine is, having all these needs that they're imposing on us. So we're meeting those needs. Our political class has needs clearly that are tied into this transfer of wealth. So their needs are being met. The needs of every single nation around the world seems to be a priority for our political elite, including that of other countries that don't really like us very much. But we continuously fund their issues, their borders, their protections, their sovereignty, but we're not funding the needs of the American people. So the idea is to go out in front of people, to have an open discussion, not censor everybody and anybody at this point. We are being completely censored, except you can say what you want to say on X, although even that is still an issue. So we want the truth. And the truth is going to be in the room with us only if we are present and if we are engaged. So the national conversation is simply that. We want to start out in Dallas. Unfortunately, we had to postpone our general admissions event, which again, we planned on having 200-300 people there who would basically hear a set of questions that would be asked of our panel. I would moderate the panel. And then as our panelists answer these questions very briefly, we want to open the floor to our audience and hear them. Unfortunately, given what happened with Charlie Kirk and having this immense tragedy and this assassination, attempting to stifle free speech, what we are looking at right now is just a private dinner that we are going to host in Dallas, and that will be only for those who purchase that type of a ticket. It's going to be much smaller, much more intimate, but it will kind of have the same premise. We will discuss some of these questions that are pressing for our nation, such as foreign policy, such as economics, such as financial fluidity of our country, fiscal responsibility, law and order, border protection. And as we answer a series of these questions, we will open it up to the audience who will be there and openly not only ask us questions, but actually engage and tell us what their concerns are and how they feel we could solve some of these problems. So that is why we're there. We are planning on having possibly 3 or 4 of these events around the country per year. We'll see a lot of this will depend on this first event. Although, as I said, we have to postpone the general admission, but we're going to come back certainly and open it up to the general audience. It's just really difficult right now with security concerns that we have to have 200-300 people in an open space. Obviously, we don't want to be sitting ducks on that stage. And God forbid something happens, just as we witnessed in Utah with Charlie Kirk. But again, I think what message we are carrying and having seen what Charlie was doing, it's ripe time for something like this.
Yes.
But not only for our young people, for the students, we want to open it up to all Americans to have access to leaders that they have seen already, to leaders that they aspire to speak to, such as Colonel McGregor, who's just an inspiration and a leader that people trust, and a
Yes.
leader that can really speak with authority on a lot of these issues. And obviously, as you said, my background brings a lot of this experience to it, and so does Judge Napolitano, and
Yeah.
so does Natalie. So we want to actually make sure that the audience can engage with these leaders. And it's not always going to be a panel, depending on the city that we go to, depending on the audience. We may have screening of films, we may have different types of panelists. We just want to make sure that we are engaged and we are carrying that message not only to President Trump, but we are carrying that message forward, because here we are entering a new election cycle in
Yes.
2016. We just want to make sure that the American people are our priority. And that still doesn't seem to be the case because, as I said, President Trump is still being sabotaged from within. There is an ongoing coup, and we've been witnessing it for 10 plus years now. And our justice system is being weaponized, and not only the justice system, but all of the agencies continue to be weaponized. President Trump is literally running his government with only so many people that he was able to confirm and nominate. But we have all kinds of vacuums in these agencies. We have a diplomatic vacuum. So you and I can discuss that further as we go along.
Okay. Wow. All right. So that's a lot.
It is a
So
lot.
it is. So at first, so is the dinner still going to be held October 4th?
Yes, the dinner stays the same. The dinner is on October 4th, and people can still purchase those tickets.
Can
They
still get
are
them.
at a little bit of a higher cost, so it will be
Yes.
Central Dallas. We will only share the location for the dinner with those who purchase the ticket.
Oh,
And as I said, it's going to be much smaller, much more intimate, and we are capping that at only 50 people, and it's
okay.
actually almost sold out.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. How many seats we have left? So you have to hurry if you want to get in on this in Dallas on October 4th for the dinner. And where would they be able to go to find tickets?
Yes, so they can go to www.thenationalconversation.org. That is our website. They can also go to our X. We have an X account, and we are building that because obviously, as I said, this is new. We just launched in August, and we planned on making this much bigger than it actually is going to be in Dallas. But we promise we're going to come back for the bigger event. But at this point, it's only going to be a private dinner on October 4th. And those that purchase the ticket will get the instructions where to go. It's going to be downtown Dallas. So it will be easily accessible. But as I said, because of security concerns, we're just not going to publicize precisely where this is.
Yes, everything has changed with the Charlie's
It
death.
has, and it's very scary to
Yes.
actually have to go through this. But
Yeah.
America is not a stranger to political assassinations, as we
Mhm.
know throughout our history. What is
Unfortunately.
becoming very concerning is that now, this open targeting of the conservative voices, But I have to say, and what's really, really important to point out, and particularly through national conversation, as they literally murdered Charlie Kirk in this open arena, sending a message to our young people and sending a message to Americans that they want to shut you down, where they shut down one voice, and Charlie's voice obviously was so very effective. But if
Yes.
they shut one down, 1,000 more are going to rise up. And that is
Yes.
exactly what we're doing. We're going to raise these voices and we want them to be heard. We want President Trump to hear them, certainly, and we want everybody else around the country to hear them. But we have to be present. We have to be there in the room together, on the spot together, so that we can have that voice. But
Yeah.
Charlie's was fascinating voice. It was very effective, and obviously all of you saw um, how it impacted people
Mm.
yesterday at this memorial. So we all have a duty, a civic duty, to continue that legacy of conversation, to continue being the pluralist society that we actually are, where every single voice can be heard, not shut down and not censored and not stifled, because that is exactly what the beauty of America was and what it must continue being. So the
Yes.
national conversation is just doing its part, bringing that civic discourse, civil discourse, without being threatened that you're going to be murdered for the freedom of speech.
Yes. I heard you say on another interview, and I'm not going to get it verbatim, but you were talking about how um, I'm not going to say that the general people have gotten lazy, but it is our responsibility to police these politicians. And we
Yes,
don't do that enough. We trust them, we elect them, and then we just let them go and do what they are going to do. And that is not the way it was ever meant to happen. And we do have a part in this, and we do need to step up, and we do need to be part of the conversation. If there's going to be a change, we have to be part of that change. You can't rely on somebody else to do that for you. So, this is very important. This is a very important program. This is going to involve everyone. That's amazing. And
it is
so,
very important. And you know, when it comes to policing, the Americans have kind of gotten used to the global American empire that is policing the world. But who is actually
yes,
policing the people who are deciding for us?
that's right.
Where they're going to send our money, what they're going to do with it, and how they are going to impose certain legislation on us. Because what they are forgetting is that they are employed by us. They are
That's right.
our employees and not the other way around. But you are right. We are getting um, not really lazy. I mean, from 2015, I've never seen anything like the energy that we have put into electing President Trump. So we have it in us. And we realized how important it was. We realized how important it is to actually exercise that democratic vote that you have. And, you know, at some point, Americans realized that they have been taken advantage of so much.
Yes.
And the only thing that was left for them, it was kind of like the middle finger to the globalist elite, which is our democratic vote. What is now really scary, and especially in 2020, what became evident, that even your democratic vote doesn't matter because they can just steal it.
Yes.
And that is now what we're seeing with our, even with President Trump being in office. What is really scary is that nobody trusts the process. Nobody trusts the
No,
democratic process.
no.
Nobody trusts the institutions. And what is becoming evident now, even back to Charlie Kirk, we're not trusting our agencies to tell us the truth, to
No.
actually tell us what happened. We
No.
still don't know anything about Epstein files. We still
That's
really don't know what happened to Charlie Kirk, because
that's
if
right.
you kind of follow what is happening,
Yes.
you have all kinds of conspiracies, but
Tons.
conspiracies tend to run wild when people lose trust in their government, when
That's
people lose trust in their elected officials, when they are not held to account, and when they are actually indebted to special interests, when they are indebted to lobbyists, when they are indebted to the military industrial complex,
mhm,
when they
mhm.
are indebted to foreign intel agencies. That is when you have conspiracies. And
Yes.
some would say, well, they're not conspiracies, they're people are critically thinking. Well, of course, everybody wants to think that they're critically thinking, but we're really going off the plantation right now.
Just
And we're
with some
still
of
not
them.
getting the truth. We
Yes.
still have no idea what happened. We still
Mhm.
don't know what happened to President Trump in Pennsylvania. We
Right.
have no idea what happened in Butler. Who is this person that tried to kill our president one time in Pennsylvania, second time at Mar-a-Lago? We know nothing,
Right.
which is
Right.
why we must stand firm and we must demand that these elected officials and these agencies work for us, prioritize us first and foremost, which is why the national conversation must happen. We must have the national conversation. Otherwise, they are going to continue running wild and it's going to be more of the same, more of
Yes.
the status quo. And you understand the thinking that we're going to somehow vote ourselves out of this when we really don't have a say, and thinking that we're going to, keep doing the same thing over and over, but expecting a different result. Well, that's the
Yes.
definition of insanity.
That's
And
right.
we keep doing it.
Yes, yes, we do. To your point, this election cycle, I have interviewed so many just regular people who are not politicians at all, who are now running for office because
Yes.
we don't trust the process. We don't trust the people that are in there now. We just kind of have lost trust in all politicians. So, people are taking the initiative. They are stepping up. I've seen that a lot more lately, which makes me very proud. That's, what we all need to do. We all just need to do our part. So,
Yes, we
so
do. And I'm really happy to hear that. The problem is Washington is broken.
I know it is.
And that is the issue where we think that even those who are on our side, they are on our side until that very moment they show up in DC. Once they show up in DC, something happens. I don't know if
Yes.
it's some sort of lobotomy or what,
Right.
some sort of a chip is inserted into them. And look, I've spent many years not only around Washington, D.C., but working with intel agencies, working on transnational crimes, counterterrorism all around the world. And trust me, it's the same process everywhere. You're being promised something, you're given talking points, people trust these, officials that are running for office. And the moment they are elected, something happens and they are
Yes.
being fed a set of information that they must somehow represent, because what they represent is who paid for it. It is being bought
Mhm.
and paid for. It is
Yes.
not really necessarily being just voted for. Those who pay, and unfortunately, we are being sold to the highest bidder,
Yep.
those who pay get the policies that they pay for.
Yeah.
And that's been business as usual. So that is where some of the skepticism comes from. No matter how we vote, and no matter who actually wants to run, the moment they get there, they're put in some sort of a situation where they actually must abide by the special interest, by
Yeah.
those who paid for it, by those who funded it. So that is why we must build this ground up. So even when it comes to talking about third way, or how do you challenge the uniparty? Because the uniparty clearly is being paid by the same interests, no matter, they differ here and there. It sounds like they're different. But in fact, when it gets to that all-inclusive package that we were thinking about,
Yes.
at the beginning, you end up getting much more of the same. And
Yes.
unfortunately, what you end up getting is the swamp continues sabotaging even those that we really trust and that we really wanted there, like President Trump. He still continues to be sabotaged. And I think that is very evident, back to the Epstein files, back to
Hmm.
Charlie Kirk, back to, two assassination attempts of President Trump. We
Hmm.
still have no idea what's happening.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh. So it sounds like this group it has a large amount of just educating people. I
Yes,
mean, which is hugely important just to
that is
educate people.
precisely what we want to do. It's an education piece. Our voters must be educated. Our voter, well, and not just voters, American people
Yeah.
obviously are those voters that will have to impact these policies. But, it has to start from home. It has to start with our youngsters. It has to
Yes.
start with education. It
Yes.
has to start in every pore of our society, because every pore of our society has been infiltrated.
Absolutely.
And that is the unfortunate part, because again, even I come from that education background where I was teaching at the university system. And honestly, I had students coming to me and saying, some of the professors are asking us how we voted for a grade. That is
What?
scandalous. Oh, yes. And that was Chicago for you.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
it is horrible. So changing, and I know President Trump had all of these incredible ideas. We must get rid of some of these departments that have
Yes.
seeped in, to, as I said, every pore of society, including what you can do in your home, including how you educate your kids, including
Yes.
who educate your kids, and
Yes.
including who owns your children. I repeat, the government does not own your children. It is up to you how you educate your children and what education they receive. But those teachers from young age, from elementary
That's
school to
right.
middle school to high school to university, have no right to impose their own political beliefs, and very often very skewed political beliefs and
Yes.
social justice, and this woke ideology on
Yes.
your children. If
Absolutely.
your kids, they are sitting, and I'm an educator still to this day, if the children in your classroom know your political ideology, you've got no business being in that classroom.
I agree 100%. It even goes to vaccines. I mean, the government was
100%.
mandating the vaccines.
Yes. Well, and that
So,
is where you get this unelected bureaucracy that actually runs rampant through our government. But that is not only our government, that is European Union, that is NATO, that is the entire conglomerate of these agencies that nobody ever voted for. These
mhm,
individuals that keep showing up, they're unelected bureaucrats. For
right.
example, you mentioned vaccines.
Yes.
Dr. Fauci being a poster child for an
Yeah,
unelected bureaucrat that destroyed lives of
absolutely.
millions of Americans,
Yes.
and he's still not being held accountable
And still destroying lives because the
and still
vaccines now
destroying
are
lives.
all the vaccine
Exactly.
injured.
Because this is a long term effects that we are having
Yes.
on reproductive systems,
Yes.
on everything that you can possibly think of.
That's right.
What are the long term adverse effects of all of these? It's, I hate to use the word, but it's almost a genocide that's happening
Yes, ma'am.
in the way they pushed this. And
Mhm.
we have then subsequently learned that a lot of it was based on faulty science, that a lot of it was based on hidden science, on lies. And there he
On
is,
money. Yeah.
on money, of course. Well, it's always follow the money. I think that's a
Yes.
given. So
It's
we
yes.
understand that part. But that, again, when it comes to our health, when it comes to our education, when it comes to our foreign policy, follow the money.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate because even our healthcare became big business. They're not out there to actually cure you. They're
No.
out there to make you addicted and to make you a long-term client.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
again, back to unelected bureaucracy, that is in particular one issue that we have to somehow solve in this country, because no matter how much we vote, I've spoken to many, and I've been active in politics for so long. Even our elected officials that are great, that are actually out there doing what we sent them out to do, they are consistently challenged and offset
Yeah.
by these unelected bureaucrats. And the
Mhm.
unelected bureaucracy you cannot get rid of. Our laws are positioned as such that even President Trump cannot get rid of these people. And that is the failure of the entire governmental system. That's exactly why it's broken. The
Yeah.
bureaucracy that sits there for 10, 20, 30 years, where to them, an elected official, let's say, one term, two term, to however many terms we can have them for, they're like a temporary nuisance. Even let's start with our Congress. It's a two
Right.
year term. We'll get rid of them. But the bureaucrats, they sit there forever. Look at
Yeah.
our foreign policy. Why do you think it never changes? Hasn't changed for decades. Because the unelected bureaucratic managerial class actually runs the show. You look at State Department. President Trump is being completely sabotaged because running this top down, yes, we have Secretary Rubio, we have few people that they put in there. My name appears as one of the candidates for an ambassador to one of the countries. We're looking at a complete and total diplomatic void. Even if President Trump has certain set foreign policies where, he has great political instincts, those foreign policies are not being implemented or carried through. Why? Because we've got no diplomats on the ground. Out of 150 something countries where we need to send our ambassadors, 71 vacancies currently, 72 Biden holdovers, and 40 are stuck in queue at the Senate, with Leader Toon just kind of like going nuclear the other day and sort of trying to push this forward, confirming some of these nominees. But I mean, President Trump is completely stifled even just on that simple premise. So what
Wow.
is that telling you? Without our diplomats in these different countries, particularly countries that are very tumultuous, where we have wars going on all over the place, there's no one to actually talk to these leaders in these countries. You have rogue State Department, quote unquote, rogue agencies, rogue intel running the foreign policy on the ground. And I actually know that for a fact because not only that I have worked in that arena, but I have our congressional representatives currently who go on these diplomatic visits around the world and come back and say, oh my God, we've got no one on the ground. The leaders of these countries are begging us to send somebody because they are completely pierced and penetrated by intel who is running rogue and parallel foreign policy that has nothing to do with what President Trump wants to do.
Wow. Yeah, it's so much deeper than what people realize, you know.
And that's the problem, and Americans don't really know that. And
Mm-mm.
to a certain degree, you understand it because Americans are worried about their daily life. I mean,
Yes.
the cost of living have gone exponentially up. Real estate is
Yes.
insane. We're getting a little bit relief with President Trump here and there, at the gas pump, grocery store, things like that. But overall, Americans are worried how to send their kids to school. Americans
Yes.
are worried how to just navigate their daily existence.
Yes.
So thinking about, oh, we have diplomats around the world, I'm sure their now is though that their tax dollars are being sent all over the world to countries that dislike us, to countries that are, committing all kinds of war crimes, to countries that are killing people, to countries that are, undermining our national security. Because you would think that this entire premise of the global American empire would be helpful to us. It actually is hurting our national security. And there's something called blowback. I know you guys are in Texas and we're coming to see you in Texas, but somebody that I really admire is your former Congressman, Ron Paul, who
Yeah.
actually toyed with this idea of blowback. Well, that's exactly what we're experiencing. But
Yes.
nobody wants to talk about what is at the core source of why are we experiencing this? Why are we going through this insane migrant crisis? Why are our borders open? Why are we having these immense demographic changes, not only in the United States, but all around Europe? Why are certain native populations being replaced? Why are we not existing in a high trust society that's homogenous, where you're not going to be worried going, leaving a pizzeria as your job and getting on a train in North Carolina and getting stabbed and killed, and you just
That's right.
escaped from war-torn Ukraine, like
That's
the
right.
case with Irina Zarutska.
Yes. Yes.
So it is insane what we're living through, what we're going through, and imagine how many things are actually being hidden from us. These
That's
are
right.
facts that we see.
That's right.
We saw what happened to Charlie Kirk. We
Yes.
saw what happened to Irina Zarutska, but you guys have had some insane cases in Texas,
Yes.
like the stabbing of that young man on the track field not too long ago. So there, you had an owner of a motel decapitated the other day by an immigrant in Texas. Again, I believe it was in Dallas. There was a little boy that was taken from his home not too long ago and murdered in his front yard. He was like 4 or 5 years old. I mean, you're hearing these things that majority of them are not being put in public. Why?
No,
Because it doesn't fit a certain narrative.
that's right. That's
Now,
right.
if the roles are reversed, we glorify it and we make a national hero out of somebody like George Floyd.
That's right.
So that is the problem. We have been completely penetrated by these globalist interests who are clearly having an agenda to impose some sort of a social structure that is not organic, spontaneous to what Americans really believe in, to what America truly is, and what it should be as it was founded by our founding fathers. And unfortunately, a lot of people go back to the Constitution and the founding fathers and say, well, that's what it says in the Constitution, and that's what the founding fathers meant. Well, yes, they meant it at the time it was written, and at the time we had limited immigration, we had limited exposure to different types of religions. We have today complete incompatibility with the democratic American society, with the American Republic, and with the Western Christian traditions of what this country really was founded on. What we are experiencing is total usurpation of our
Mm,
laws, and they're being used against us because
yes,
that's not initially what it was meant for.
that's right. That's exactly right. The Constitution was written to protect we the people, not the government. Oh, wow.
Well, that too, but we the people, there are again certain culture that started this country, that built this country, that bled for this country. It was that labor of love, of blood, sweat, and tears. Yes, we
Mhm.
are a nation of immigrants, but the immigrants were compatible consistently with what the American culture is every single immigrant today that is not vetted, that just walks through our doors, compatible with who we are as a nation? That is the question that we must answer. And that is why, again, we must have a national discussion. Is every religion compatible with who we are as a nation? Is every culture, every social norm, every social structure, even that is being imposed on us here internally, like the woke ideology, is it compatible with who we truly are as Americans? These are
Mhm.
all questions that are legitimate, and these are all questions that we must get answers to, either by the American people or by those who we elect to represent us. Clearly, they're not answering those questions for us.
No, they're not. So where else will you be going after Dallas? Do you have in mind where else you guys will go with the national
We
conversation?
don't yet. We have few ideas. We have several invitations because people are now really excited about, um, you know, just having an opportunity to directly engage with Colonel Douglas McGregor, with
Yeah,
Judge Napolitano, with Natalie, with myself. So they're
yes,
kind of extending invitations and saying, hey, you need to come here, you need to come there. Obviously, people crave that. People
yes,
want to be heard.
yes,
People need to have a discussion, open discussion that is not censored, that is not being astroturfed, and where you're not being told what to think,
right,
how to think, who you can and cannot criticize.
right.
No one is beyond and above criticism. We as Americans reserve that right. We can criticize anything and anyone as long as it's civil and
That's right.
we are having a civil conversation. Um, so we have few ideas, but right now we are sticking to Dallas. As I said, a lot will depend on how this first event
Yeah.
goes. But since you are in Texas, please share the information and make sure that we can have as many people there as we can. And as I said, we promise we will come back for that general admission event where we would like to have 200-300 people. We
Yeah.
were planning on having it, and we're going to have it at the Frontiers of Flight Museum, which is just spectacular. So it's going to be this big, fantastic, patriotic space where we actually truly want to have this discussion. So as soon as we have new dates for Frontiers of Flight Museum, we'll keep you posted on that.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. So, we'll just kind of wind things down and tell me one more time, and I'll put it up and put it in the bottom, what websites that they go to if they want tickets for the dinner. And this is for the first event that you guys have in Dallas, October 4th.
Yes, it's October 4th. It will be starting at 6 p.m. downtown Dallas. They can go to our X account, The
Yep.
National Conversation, or they can go to www.thenationalconversation.org.
There we go. The national conversation. This sounds like a fantastic idea.
Thank you.
It shouldn't take an act of Congress to put something like this together because we've needed it for a long time. And I'm so glad to see you guys all coming together and educating people. And
Yeah.
it's well respected, well known people that I'm super excited about this. I can't wait to
Thank
be a
you. And
part
I
of it.
think these well known people that really have a proven track record of being straight shooters, telling
Yes.
it like it is, that's exactly what we need. They're not
Consistent.
politicians in
Yes,
what
that's right.
consistent. They've
Yes.
always been true. And I think they have such gravitas where people trust them and people
Yes.
flock to them
Yeah.
and truly see them as leaders because they're
Mhm.
not bought and paid for by anybody. We're not starting out and saying, hey, look at me, I'm this big billionaire and you all need to follow me. No, we actually want to follow the American people, which is how this country meant to be.
I love that. Thank you again for taking the time to come on my show and to tell my
Sure.
audience all about the national conversation. I'm going to follow it, and hopefully we can get some follow up from you once you guys get started and get out there and get in some other venues. That would be fantastic.
100%. We'll keep in touch and thank you so much for having me today.